The second one she says is nothingness. Self-emptying, kenosis in Christianity. Jesus is said to have to emptied himself completely on our behalf. What it means for us, and I'm using Christian iconography because I think it'll resonate with most of you. Also because I think it's very cool. Also because I think most people don't get it, because most people aren't me. So, the crucifixion of Jesus, crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus is absolutely true. It's absolutely true as a parable, as a metaphor. The power is in the metaphor, not in the history. The power is in the story, not in the history. I was once with Father Thomas Keating, who I love dearly, and I studied with him since 1984. He was my priest. I had only one priest, but lots of nuns. I was like Krishna with the gopi girls. That was my... So we were together in Texas teaching on a panel, one of those interfaith panels. Interfaith panels are basically the traditional kind, are a waste of time. Each person tells you the best thing about their religion, and all the other people are going, oh, that's just like ours, that's just like ours, that's just like ours, and you're going to hell, and you're going. So we're at this panel, and there's always a Catholic guy in the crowd who's angry about being a Catholic guy. I've never seen a woman do it, only Catholic men do it. So there was a Catholic guy in this group. We had like hundreds of people. There was a Catholic guy in this group. And he says to Father Thomas, isn't it true? Of course, when anyone starts a sentence, isn't it true? They think it's true. Isn't it true that the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ is absolutely necessary for everyone's salvation? You can't say that in an interfaith panel. You might have a hard time saying it on a panel of Presbyterians and Methodists and Catholics and Greek. You can't say that. And so Father Thomas didn't know what to do. And he's a very nice guy. And he's trying, well, there's this. And I'm sitting next to him, and I am just boiling. Not at the guy who asked the question, at Father Thomas, who just won't answer it. So I asked him, could I answer the question? So he goes, and now the rabbi will answer the question about that. So I get the mic, which is all I ever want. And I said, because I am a holy rascal, I said, the crucifixion, the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ is absolutely necessary for everybody's salvation. The whole group, whoa, the rabbi said that? And then I said, necessary, but not sufficient. Ooh, see? It was worth coming here today, right? Necessary, but not sufficient. Jesus shows you what you have to do. Now you do it. Jesus never says, worship me. Jesus says, follow me. He says, how dumb do you have to be? Take up your cross and follow me. Where are we going, Dunkin' Donuts? No. We don't have Dunkin' Donuts. We have Golgotha. We're going to hang out on a cross and die. That's what he says. Take up your cross and follow me. When, again, I was teaching in the university, I would say, what does that mean? And the kids would do these things like, oh, my parents were divorced, or my father was an alcoholic, or they were abusive, or I have my sister and I don't get along, or my brother and I don't get along. They would go through all these things, and when they were done, I would say, look, nobody ever got crucified for sibling rivalry. Those are things that Oprah wants to talk about, but not Jesus. The reason you get crucified is because you stand up to the powers, as Paul called them, and you tear them down in this amazing, yeah, there you go. in this nonviolent, completely subversive way. So what has to happen is that we all have to be crucified. The ultimate emptying is on the cross. The first gospel, not the first gospel in the New Testament, which is Matthew, Mark. The first gospel is Mark. I don't know why I'm doing this. Barbara, where are you? It's like, Barbara's going, there's my whole thing. I'm the Christian here. What is this? So I'm channeling Barbara. But the first gospel historically is Mark. And unlike John, where Jesus can't shut up on the cross, Mark, Jesus only says one thing on the cross. Right? When in John, Jesus says, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do." It is finished, but not yet. It's like he's selling something on QVC. It's like, wait, there's more. But in the Gospel of Mark, he only says one thing. He says, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani." It's the first verse of the 22nd Psalm. My God, why have you forsaken me?" There's a Gnostic gospel, I don't remember which one it is, maybe you know which one it is, where Peter says to Jesus, "What's going to happen when we get to Jerusalem?" And Jesus says, "Let me show you." And it's a three-tiered thing. So there's Jesus talking to Peter, and then Peter sees above the two of them Jesus hanging on the cross. And then above that, he sees Jesus laughing from heaven. And the message is, I'm not really with you, and I'm not really on the cross. I'm untouchable. If that's true, then who cares? I don't need a Jesus who can't suffer, because I suffer. Right? So we don't have that in Mark. In Mark, he's suffering. And he's suffering not just physically, he's suffering psycho-spiritually. My God, why have you forsaken me? He may have thought that this was going to be okay. I'll get there, they'll pick another guy named Brian, they'll put him up there, I'm going to slip away, and they'll be going, always look on the bright side of life. Doo-doo. Right? Maybe he thought that. I don't know. But that isn't what happened. It was him, and he's hanging there, and he calls out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" He's lost his last bit of escapism. The crucifixion is now complete. Even if he's alive, the crucifixion is now complete. Body, heart, mind, soul, and spirit. He's got nothing. Now, he didn't give it up. It was taken from him. This is Jesus' rock bottom. Right? This is the true emptying of Jesus on the cross. There's a tradition that says the emphasis should be on, when you read the Psalm 22:1, you should read it something like, my God, why have you forsaken me? Emphasis on the God of my understanding, if you're in a 12-step program. The God of your understanding is just a projection of your ego. It's meaningless. Right? Read my books on recovery and start drinking again. But, because don't do that. Don't do that. There's plenty of other things to abuse. You don't have to do that. No. So, the emphasis on my God. What Jesus lost was the God of his own projection. So he was completely empty. Absolutely necessary for everyone's salvation. You all have to go through that dark night of the soul. If there's going to be a resurrection. And if the resurrection is actually a resurrection, if it's transformative. Because if you just get off the cross and you've still got the same mindset you went up on the cross, then it was a waste of nails. I've already been paid. Right? I mean, I can say whatever I want. I'm like the president. A Republican could say that, or a Democrat could say that. Billionaires could say that, if you're in the billionaire class.